Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 horror remake, Witchboard. The film is directed and co-written by Chuck Russell, and it stars Madison Eastman, Aaron Dominguez, Mel Jameson, Charlie Tahan, and Jamie Campbell Bower. Right, the film, as I mentioned, is a remake of the 80s horror film of the same title. And it focuses on a character called Emily. Her and her partner, Christian, they are with a group of friends opening their own restaurant. While they're out foraging in the woods, they discover an old witchboard. They don't know what it is initially, but she thinks it'll look cool in the restaurant. They take it back, and unfortunately for her, the board takes something of a hold over her. And it has got a very dark, ancient, and dangerous past, as it used to belong to a very, very dangerous witch several hundred years ago. Right, what are my thoughts on Witchboard? Well, first things first, in all transparency, I've not seen the original from the 80s, so I can't comment that this is a faithful adaptation, so to speak. But I think, in regards to remakes, I think these sometimes can be the best ones to remake, so to speak, because when people talk about classic horror films from the 80s, there's not many that say, "Oh, Witchboard, no, that was a brilliant film." So sometimes I do think it's a good idea to look back in, past films from years ago that maybe didn't reach the audience it should have done or could have done maybe better, and then maybe try and reimagine them for a modern audience. I would much rather see that than quite a lot of the time we see people remake movies that you kind of think, what's the point in that? It was done perfectly before. There's no point in doing that. So, I'm never really massively against remakes, especially of this kind. Now, I'm probably going to say a fair few negative things about this film because it is undeniably flawed, this film. But also at the same time, it's undeniably super entertaining in many ways. It ticks a lot of horror boxes. It's got some good gore, it's got some decent scares going for it here and there. But in regards to horror tropes, this is absolutely bursting at the seams with them. Pretty much every horror trope you can think of, jump scares, flicking lights, lights turned off when there's no need for them to be. I could literally go on and on and on. They're all here, horror tropes. So if you don't mind that so much, you probably won't mind this too much. But it's just chock full of horror tropes, conveniences. The fact that this board has a connection to this girl, Emily, and she just happens across it while she's foraging in the woods. There is a little bit of a story how it gets in the woods, because some guys tried to steal it from a museum and it didn't go well. But she just knows where it is. It's just very too convenient for my liking. There's things that happen in this film that are clearly dodgy, clearly associated with this board, even if you can't explain what's going on. Maybe it's time to get rid of it, even if she's not able to, because it might have got a hold on her. Other people could have done. It's just bizarre how, this keeps escalating and escalating, and the thing that escalating it is still there, basically. There is a ridiculously hilarious scene in the film where someone gets killed by a cat that I just thought was, and again, I suspect this was in the original. You guys might have seen the original. You could say I'm wrong on this, but yeah, the cat to death scene was ridiculous. And then there's things like, this is a restaurant, right, that they're opening. They're trying to garner some kind of reputation. They've just opened. It's opening night. They've got a restaurant critic coming. Everybody's bursting at the seams with customers. Oh, it's all wonderful. And they are serving mushrooms that haven't been treated in any way. And they are mushrooms that they don't even know what sort of mushrooms they are. Not a clue. And these mushrooms essentially are, well, they've grown out of a dead body and they are clearly, not the kind of mushrooms you want to be eating. But there's nobody in the kitchen turns around and says, I don't know these mushrooms, I'm not serving them. I've no idea what they are. Nobody even tests them. They just kind of like, oh, I like the colour of them. Oh, and they smell lovely. Do you know what? I'm going to serve them on every single meal that I serve on the opening night of this restaurant. Twaddle. You wouldn't do it. So, I mean, like I said, the film is deeply flawed. There is no getting around that. It really is. And those of you who have watched a lot of horror films, you will definitely be raising an eyebrow at some of the stuff that goes on here in this film. However, also, again, as I've mentioned, at the same time, it raises a smile because it's somewhat old-fashioned. It's the kind of horror film that we used to get back in the early to mid-noughties. And it's done competently well. I mean, we've got Chuck Russell directing this. Now, the trailer did make me smile a bit when it said from the horror, I don't know. It said something about him being like this horror master sort of thing. And you're just kind of thinking, what? Chuck Russell? What's he done that's horror? And the only thing he's done that's horror before this is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, which, granted, is probably the best Nightmare on Elm Street film, apart from the original. But, The Mask, Eraser with Schwarzenegger, those are some of the other films he's done. But if you look at his filmography, he's also made some absolute piles of dog poo. So this guy is not a horror master, and the trailer is quite ridiculous to make such a claim, but he is an industry veteran. He has directed a lot of good films. So he handles the production of this very well, and it looks like it's got solid production values going on for it. It looks pretty slick. The performances are all fine. The villains are hamming it up, all that kind of stuff. There is some pretty decent gore going on in this as well. It's not tamed down for what you would describe as, teen audience or anything like that, even though, there is an element of that a little bit. But I found this to be a pleasant surprise. I was engaged throughout. I never felt bored watching it. It made me smile occasionally because of the ridiculousness of it, but also at the same time it made me smile for the right reasons as well, because I thought it was just a fun horror film at the very core of it. So yeah, flawed but fun would be my kind of tagline for this one, if you're looking for one. So that's my thoughts on the remake Witchboard. Let me know if you're planning on seeing this one, and I will of course be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.